SpaceX flight and
Hurricane Ian.
I'm here with Ada, the robot.
Catastrophic climate change.
Use virtual reality to do medical research.
We live in interesting times. An era defined by a need to survive, to thrive, and for tomorrow to be better than today. An era that demands responsibility, innovation, imagination, hard work, and sustainability.
Essentially, it means we use current resources and not to take up the future sort of resources.
Once everybody will say it's about reducing carbon, it's about climate issues. Others will extend it to social areas, and some will actually go into governance.
Sustainability encompasses three pillars: economic, environmental, and social.
So depending on the industry, it's not the definition of sustainability that changes, but it is the attribute of sustainability that changes.
It's more than a buzzword or some vague idea about renewables. Adopting sustainable methods in our industries and cities is the difference between 1.5 degrees and 2 degrees of global warming, or the difference between surviving a bad hurricane or permanently living underwater. Reaching this goal of net zero carbon would require almost a 60% increase in current capital spending, amounting to $9.2 trillion per year until 2050. And it starts with information.
How do I select my metrics? What are the KPIs? How do I collect that data? How do I measure and prove out that data?
Everyone wants to talk about the AI and algorithms, and all of those things work great, but only if we have an upgraded foundation of IoT sensors, high definition cameras. You need high capacity networks like 5G and Wi-Fi 6, and data center architectures.
How do you hold yourself accountable? How do you measure that impact? How do you stay functionally relevant while you're making a transition?
All the technologies that can wrap their heads around and bring all that data in for AI to use, process, give it out to companies to say, these are your top projects, and then to operationalize those projects.
It's more than just decarbonization. It's renewable energy, water, recycling, raw materials. Almost $6.5 trillion annually is needed in developing low emissions assets and infrastructure.
You need to think of decarbonization when it comes down to it. Do things in a less carbon way. Secondly, if there's carbon already out there, what can we do to take that carbon out? 3, how do we finance this whole program, and what are the mechanisms that we put in place?
What it really means is, for a conventional energy resources company, say oil and gas, sustainability would mean getting into a newer energy model, maybe transitioning into renewables.
Transportation, for example, is focusing on transitioning to electric vehicles for light duty, but we're going to start seeing on the heavy duty or long haul, the trucks, the planes, and the boats, different forms of energy. Many forms of hydrogen are in development.
I think the topmost would be efficiency and optimization. Then we'll come to electrification and upgrades, renewables, scope 3 emissions, and working with the supply chain to reduce it. And I think then it'll be CCUS and offsets.
A common complaint has always been the cost. But perhaps the best thing about sustainability, other than saving the planet, is that in the long term, it's profitable. With projected incremental growth opportunities of $4.7 trillion till 2026.
Investing in this sustainability aspect, sort of a virtuous cycle. So you save more, you invest more, you save more, you invest more. So essentially, it's a no-brainer.
But usually financial institutions will do well either way, as will investors, as long as they have the data and they understand why those decisions are.
And for the first time in history, the sustainability market has momentum on its side, with ESG investments of over $30 trillion in the last decade.
But you're seeing money from like the Inflation Recovery Act. You're seeing tax credits for carbon capture, what we talked about, for green hydrogen, for geothermal power, and for new nuclear.
The way it is shifting is there are incentives that are being built in by governments, by companies, and by consumers who are saying that I am willing to live with a little lower rate of interest, but I want to make sure that my money is actually getting used for only a sustainable activity or an organization.
Whether it's the European community saying there's a $500 billion fund, I believe now, right, to encourage this change, or what's happened in the US here in North America with the Biden bill coming through and saying there's $700 billion to encourage this, and lots of tax breaks come across here. So that is taking place. I think that the understanding of funds, of how investors can now participate and actually capitalize on this, we have seen a slew of startups, right?
That's because the market ultimately answers to the customer. With a projected $12 trillion of annual sales by 2030 in sectors ranging from transport to power and hydrogen.
So there are ample surveys out there which says that consumers today want to buy sustainable products.
The Gen Z, I'm very interested in because they have the most access to knowledge. They're also the most politically aware.
More consumer product organizations in the last 4 or 5 years have seen their sustainable brands growing at a 30% extra CAGR than the non-sustainable brands.
And with green planning, circular economy, integration of AI, cybersecurity awareness, smart mobility, we can build the sustainable cities of tomorrow.
It is about any infrastructure, physical infrastructure, data centers, etc. that you have. If you have to sustain them, you have to ensure that 80% plus of resources are either reduced, recycled, or reused in any particular way to make that particular city sustainable.
The question that everybody's asking us is how sustainable is sustainability-led investments, especially at times when the fear of global recession is just over the head. Inflation is at an all-time high. Energy prices are still soaring due to the ongoing invasion. I think the answer to that is we shouldn't lose the momentum and continue to drive sustainability-led investments, of course, after vetting appropriate cost benefits. There are some fundamental reasons to why I say so. We're noticing a historic shift in annual capital spending to low carbon focused assets such as renewable energy, circular materials, digital interventions to increase efficiency, and so on. And secondly, transitioning to greener assets and product portfolio can protect against customer attritions by creating strong perception towards your brand and helping you create differential value proposition. Some companies are also trying to use this opportunity to enter into new and greener businesses. And I think that's the reason why people should still stick to sustainability-led investments at times of recession as well.
Sustainable practices touch every industry, every aspect of human life. A chance to create a foundation of prosperity for all generations to come.
Just around the corner.
To keep tabs on what's around the corner, subscribe below to get notified about new episodes.